Okay. Thank you all for joining us today, both in person and online. Let's go ahead and go around and introduce ourselves because it's been a while since we've all been here and some of us have not been here in person ever. So I'll get us started. I'm Kathy Colley Robinson. I am the chair of the education programs at Durham PreK. And I am the chair of government.
Hey y'all, I'm Joy Spencer. I'm with Equity for Fort Worth, but in this meeting, I prefer to wear my Durham PreK parent.
Great morning, everyone. I am Waikisha Glass, Associate Professor at North Carolina Central University, and I am also the Early Childhood Coordinator there as well, and I serve in this capacity as Vice Chair.
Didn't know who I was surrounded by until I heard that. How about those Eagles there?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Karen Thompson. I'm the Director of Early Education for Durham Public Schools.
And good morning, Debbie Pittman, Assistant Superintendent for Durham Public Schools, working with specialized services of which further education.
Hi, I'm Frederick Dula.
I'm Catherine Brandt. I'm the provider supplements and data manager.
Good morning, I'm Maytal Bora from the Early Health Coordinator for Durham County.
I'm Joy Turner. I'm Data and Provider Relations Director at CCSA.
Xavier Cason, Durham Public Schools Foundation.
I'm Maggie West, the Workforce Support Program Manager for CCSA. Good morning, I'm Adrienne Stevens, and I am Communications and Communications Coordinator.
Good morning, I'm Josh Evans, the Durham PreK Outreach.
Good morning, I'm Monty Griggs, Senior Director for Quality Enhancement Initiatives here at CCSA.
Nita McAdoo, I'm an instructional support manager by TA and coaching for Durham PreK classrooms.
Good morning, I'm Concordia.
Good morning, I'm Kristen Snuggs. I'm the president here at Child Care Services.
Good morning, I'm Linda Chappelle, and I'm the Senior Vice President for Child Care Resource and Referral Services. And I have the pleasure of working with the awesome Durham PreK team. Good morning, Brenda. Good morning. Oh, great.
Good morning, I'm Jean Sherrick. I'm Director of the Child Care. So we're good to represent.
Good morning. I'm Jason Rutherford. I'm here as the Regional Director for Social Action for Father the Signal.
Good morning, I'm Brenda Carter. I'm the pre-K administrator for Families Community Rising. Good morning, Tamara Mathis, Director of Durham PreK here at CCSA.
Good morning, my name is Tabitha. I am the new Administrative Coordinator for DPK here at CCSA.
Great. Welcome, everybody. We're just thrilled to have you all here today. And online, sorry, I'm so bad with the online too. Okay, online, you can either unmute yourselves and introduce yourselves or put it in the chat, whichever you're comfortable doing.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Brittany Gregory, and I am a parent of 2 under 3.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Martin with the Research Department at Child Care Services.
Good morning, my name is Michelle Heron. I'm the director for the Child Care Scholarship Programs at CCSA.
And then Adrian's showing up there because she's down here. I was thinking she's logged in and muted because she's going to be showing a little video for us.
Okay, perfect.
So, great. All right, so we got everybody. Well, and we have our quorum. And we've got quorum. Hooray! Yay! All right. So next slide. I think we've already taken care of. Yeah. Yep. I mean, is there anything else anyone would like to tell us about? Anything helpful? No. Okay. All right. So we're doing this hybrid meeting. So as usual, if you're online, stay muted unless you're speaking. And please, if you're online, unmute yourself and speak whenever you would like. Camera on if you can, use the chat box, be patient. And then if you need to leave early, let Tamara know, both in person and online. And as usual, y'all, we got it packed. meeting. So here are all of our meeting objectives. We've got a lot that we are hoping to get through today. We're going to approve our June meeting notes, review a program update, review an administrative action at a program site, look at the parent surveys, check in about governance membership, review and endorse the plan for a day of giving to Durham PreK, and then we're going to talk about our January meeting. That's our meeting where we're hoping to be back in person and do some bigger planning. So it's a lot. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is to review our meeting notes from June. So you received that in the email that Linda sent out. Maybe that was yesterday, or maybe that was the day before, or
Yesterday and also a couple months.
okay, great. So if you all can take a look at those minutes. And then if there are any questions, comments, and we will need a vote to approve whenever you're ready.
So I just want to do a point of clarity about the notes so that you'll know. You will recall our June meeting. We had a closed session in the meeting to discuss confidential site-based information, about finances. The notes you have are the full notes for the full meeting. The notes that will, and the same notes excluding the section that's clearly marked closed session, will be posted on the website. So the closed session notes will not be posted on the website once you approve this. But the notes that will be posted will look exactly like what you've received with that one section of closed note minutes reading.
I think everybody's reading, but when you're done reading, if anybody wants to approve, looking for a motion. Any comments about those meeting minutes? All right, so no conversation or comments. How about a motion to approve?
Move, we accept the minutes as presented.
Thanks, Jason. Do we have a second?
Second.
Great, second. Thank you. Any discussion before we all vote? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Motion passed. Thank y'all. Okay, so now, next on the agenda, we get to hear all about the amazing things that are going on with Durham Pre-K. I know the team has been super busy getting the school year started, so now we get to hear all about their hard work. I'm gonna turn it over to Tamara.
Hi again, everyone. So we are excited about a new school year, and because of the hard work of Nita and Kamika, working with our directors, they were able to send me great pictures of the open house and first week of school of some of our sites. So I created a video I'd like to share with you all. And thank you again, Nita, for that.
That's so good. Yay. Great.
So looking forward to another great school year.
And it's not all of our sites, those are those that we were able to get, it's a process. Because we have to check every single little face on the pictures and make sure we have everything in writing to be able to show it, so it takes a minute. And so we will continue to, upload and get different photos, throughout the school year. It takes me a minute to get back on.
Yeah. Well, while you do that, Maggie and I were out at the site yesterday and we got to interact with some Durham Pre-K children and they were lovely and they were telling us about what they had a great day. Yeah. So cool.
All right, next up we have Tosh.
For application and outreach this over the last few months. We've done outreach. First, we had 1509 applications that were received within our application platform for 2025 school year as of September the 13th. We had a final summer application event that was held on August the 20th and the 21st. It was downstairs at Partnership for Children. Legal assistance was provided. We also did ASQ. Our outreach team had 5 back to school events that we participated in. And we're continuing to work with the Durham Housing Authority to do some community resource events that various communities. And we met with Will City Sigma, Durham Housing Authority, Cornwallis, Durham Can, the Mothers Club, Project Catch, and School Up to collaborate with a lot of things going on out there. If you'd like to know more about what we're doing,
Nita? Okay, so I'm gonna talk about quality improvement. The good part about my job, I actually get to go inside centers, work in classrooms with teachers and children and directors. So I get to kind of see things from on the ground, and so that's a good thing. And we're excited. Look at the centers that have decided to participate in capacity building this year. We're so excited. And what does that basically mean? It's we thank the county for funding the technical assistance that's provided for those centers. And so we will go out and do technical assistance around a couple of things. So because I didn't want to leave out anything, I'm going to just read to you. We're going to do bi-weekly on-site coaching. We do support around professional development and education planning. We do TA related to the classroom assessment scoring system, which is known as CLASS. We provide leadership development for early education program directors. And we also provide other supports as identified by the individual center and classroom. So with the directors, we do the program administration scale. Miss June can tell you all about going through that lovely scale because her center was a part of capacity building. So the kids are kids that was on the presentation that Andrea did. They also were a part of capacity building. So we're always excited when centers follow through the process. The other center that's now a DPK site is First Presbyterian Day School. They were a part of capacity building. So it works and it's an investment because if it's not an RFA year, they still are participating, though they know the opportunity to apply maybe a year away, but they're also motivated. And I think part of it, having free TA doesn't hurt because it impacts you around the environmental rating skills. It helps you when teachers are struggling with challenging behavior. So we're not just in there to get them to become Durham PreK. It's a holistic approach. We're looking at the center as a whole. What can we do to support the teachers individually? And we have started going out to these sites. And just so you know, we did contact centers that had applied and were not selected to see if they were interested in doing capacity building. Some were. And then some of the centers you see on here applied. We did an application process, sent it out to licensed centers. Our scope of work says 6 to 9, and we have 6. So we're in a good, we're moving in the right direction, but we of course would love to support other centers. Myself, Kamika Henderson, and Sean Shefty will be providing the technical assistance. Any questions about capacity building? Okay, thank you.
One thing I'll just share is that just so that you'll remember through the guidelines you guys have set, a program doesn't have to be in capacity building prior to applying through the RFA process to be Durham PreK. It's completely optional. It's just an extra way that we are trying to assure that in the long run we can meet the universal goal, because obviously you have to have a lot of places for children that can meet the quality standards. And so even if they ultimately don't become a Durham PreK site, we know it's good for children in Durham to be at the highest quality. So, Nita and her team are really strong to support those programs.
All right, and I'll share an update on our apprenticeship program, which in many ways is another capacity building effort connected to Durham PreK, really focused on the early education workforce, both in Durham PreK sites that are currently participating in the program, as well as in other sites that we're trying to build up their capacity to potentially participate in the future. So this year we have 25 returning apprentices who signed up for the program last year that are continuing on towards their associate degree and on-the-job learning this year. And then we have a new cohort of 16 apprentices who are committed to joining, who Kathy and I have been visiting and rigorously helping through the process to get started if they haven't already in their Durham Tech coursework. We now have 19 partnering employers across 22 individual locations in Durham County, with 20 mentor teachers across those sites who are supporting our apprentices. One of our recent highlights, you can see a picture, is with Kathy at Durham Tech. We hosted our first fall apprentice kickoff right as the fall semester was starting for them at Durham Tech, to provide some workshops focused on academic and workplace success, and just trying up to have a really successful semester and year while they're working full-time and involved in school simultaneously. And then this year we are registering a new apprenticeship program. So we've submitted that to Apprenticeship North Carolina, which will allow us to have a companion track focused on an early childhood certificate, so that apprentices who are brand new to the program can get a certificate and then choose whether they'd like to continue on towards the full associate degree apprenticeship. That's starting this fall.
Okay, so I do want to say publicly thank Kathy and her team at Durham Tech, because the apprenticeship program, although Maggie and her group of mentors, as well as another team member here, worked intensively with the apprentices, the key to their success is having them be successful in school. And Kathy and her leadership at Durham Tech has been instrumental in making sure the program at Durham Tech is adaptive to the needs of the students. And I think that's a critical piece of the long-term success. We really appreciate your work.
Well, thank you, but I have to tell you all, I sing the praises of you, of Durham PreK, CCFA, because the apprenticeship program would not be working without you all. I was at a statewide meeting with my colleagues last week, and I kept going, apprenticeship, y'all. Apprenticeship is the secret sauce to all of this, because of the mentoring and the supports. And they kept asking, well, how are you doing it? And I kept going, I'm not really doing it. The Child Care Service Association that's doing it. So, I mean, it's working so nicely. And the fact that we have 25 returning apprentices, I mean, that doesn't sound like a big number, I think, if you're outside of this, but that's a huge number. So we've got 25 that are continuing on. So it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been gratifying to have an interest and challenging to meet the resource needs. So, you know, just in your political hat, you can keep in mind that some ARPA dollars have been supporting apprentices in North Carolina, and we've been able to connect those dollars through the Bright Futures program, and that those ARPA dollars end in December. And North Carolina is looking at options for continued support. But we will continue. It's just that some of those really strong wraparound services that we've been able to access with the Bright Futures program at the state, those are the kinds of extras that can really help these students be successful. Because, you know, students who have a lot of assets, a lot of support, a lot of resources are not the ones who are necessarily going to find an apprenticeship program ideal. We are really reaching adults for whom a college education really may not be possible without those wraparound services. And so we're really advocating for continued support after those federal dollars.
Just to make it concrete, they've been funding things like they give them a gas stipend of $50 to $100 a month. they help cover their childcare costs, and their, some good financial support along the way.
Yeah, I mean, really, really things that could just really make a huge difference for those adults. You know, even getting reimbursed for a computer, for example. For some students, those are just tools that they have readily available, but for many of our apprentices, those are not easily accessible.
And if you need anecdotal stories to go talk to elected officials, I got oodles. The students say, the apprentices say to me all the time, I never thought this was possible. I never thought I could go to college. And so to them, this is just like a miracle that this is happening.
Yeah, I think, you know, and Durham Tech's been a really big piece of this success, but we also are continuing to pursue our long-term goal of having apprentices be able to access a 4-year degree in our partnership with North Carolina Central as well as with UNCG. So that's part of our overall package. Yeah, Waukesha's really supporting our work, trying to move forward to get to that place. So, and of course, their tuition is paid through the Teach Early Childhood Scholarship, which fortunately is not funded through those federal dollars, and that the tuition support will continue beyond December. So that at least has been a stable program for many years in North Carolina, and continue to be a stable program in North Carolina. So
We're hoping. And we do believe that Building Bright Futures will find additional funding. They had a meeting the other day that looked very promising. So.
Yeah, I mean, they're working on it. Yeah, definitely. We're excited to support anything they're able to pull together to continue those wraparound services. Okay, if you'll go back one slide real quick. So just want to, because this is our first meeting of the year for this school year, and just to kind of go back to our overview quickly, you know that Durham PreK is an umbrella term that talks about the overall landscape of universal preschool services in Durham, and closely collaborates across Durham with the lead public preschool program delivery agencies. And when we report at this meeting in governance, we talk about the locally funded seats, which are the dollars that come from Durham County into Durham PreK. And so that's our charge here for our governance group. And so that's what we primarily report on. However, Durham PreK, overall, we have long-term universal goals across the county, and our partners are critical. But for the local dollars this year, we were able this year to get a smaller increase than in some years, but still a budget increase that funded additional seats. And our partners, Durham's Partnership for Children as the lead agency for the NC PreK program, the Durham Public Schools and their Title I services, as well as their services for exceptional children. And they also house NC PreK as well as local Durham PreK seats. And then Families and Communities Rising is the local Head Start grantee, and they are our strong partners. Okay, next slide. So the increases for this year, for fiscal year 25, make it possible for us to have 653 locally funded seats, Durham PreK seats possible. Now you'll remember that our program model grades funding. So some of these 653 seats are what we call a Durham PreK only seat. That means they're only funded through local dollars. The rest of the seats with those complicated names, funding stream, is how we keep up internally because we track all the dollars. And you can see that we have Durham PreK Enhanced. That means an NC PreK seat that is primarily funded by the state through NC PreK gets enhanced dollars through our local investment. So that's an enhanced seat. And then we also have Durham PreK, NC PreK Head Start. That means that at Head Start, there's an NC PreK seat housed at Head Start, and it's being enhanced with local dollars also. And then we have our NC Pre-K Title I enhanced seats, same thing. Then there are seats at Head Start that are Durham Pre-K enhanced, but are not NC Pre-K. And then, this year, we don't happen to have any of those allocated. We see that 0. And we track this, and you might say, well, gosh, that's bad, 0. But the reality is, this program is extremely dynamic, and it is our goal to maximize the funding to spread seats across Durham as broadly as possible. And from year to year, we move around the local resources to best fit where those are needed. And so for this year, this present year, we don't have any enhanced standalone Head Start seats or Title I seats. But it's important to know, can you let Michelle in, Tamara? Did you see that? Thanks. Michelle Lynn's joining the meeting. Anyway, these are the current numbers. And what I'll say is you would think at the beginning of the school year, you would think, wow, allocations are stable, right? That would be an intuitive thing to think. But I always want to be very clear and say, yes, allocations tend to be stable, but as the year is moving on, we are constantly assessing, and sometimes we might move allocations as needed. But what is the most dynamic is actual enrollment. And what we've done here, I want to be really clear and say that September is not the month to report on enrollment. It's a fact that it is extremely volatile. We're still enrolling children. We still have some children whose families say, oh, yes, we're coming, but they haven't shown up yet. We have some who haven't shown up and have done something different. And so it's a very dynamic environment. And so we don't really report to you on enrollment until our November meeting. But we've had a lot of questions, a lot of calls and emails asking where things are. So we did for today just have that blue column, the current enrollment column, that gives you a percentage of the seats, where things are in terms of enrollment, how things are set up presently. And we did, as Anita mentioned earlier, or Adrian mentioned earlier in the slide deck, we added, if you'll recall, Marie Massenburg was added this year as a brand new school opening. And then the Kids Are Kids site. Those 2 sites, we always celebrate new sites, but I will share that we have 3 fewer sites this year from previous. Those 3 sites are still serving public preschool students, but they're not presently funded with local dollars. They are shifted. So when you look at the chart and you say, well, why are there only 24 sites when we added 2 new sites and you had 25 last year? It's because we had 3 that shifted off. They're still serving public preschool children. And you'll recall that in January is when we customarily report on all the public preschool seats in Durham across all programs. But in November, we'll report to you an updated enrollment of our local funding. But enrollment is really strong, and I think that there are some, and I want to address this because we've had some folks checking in concerned about enrollment. We do have a couple of sites across Durham that have lower enrollment. So when you look at these numbers, their percentage is much below that. And we are working really hard to be sure to fill those seats. The reality is that although enrollment is strong across the entire network, there are key locations that are low. And we will take a deep dive into that in November when we have the best information available about how it's doing. But we are continuing to enroll. And in fact, you would think, well, who's enrolling at the end of September? But lots of people. And, many families have different, life situations. And for some of them, now is not late. So we do embrace children enrolling all throughout the year. We have rolling enrollment. up until late spring. But right now, every day, children are definitely, enrolled. So just wanted to mention that. Before I go to the next one, any questions about that, Jamaica?
Is there a possibility that we be able to see a comparison of the percentage of enrollment at this time last year or this year or something like that, or when we do it in November?
Yeah, in November, we are always, our goal is to be as transparent as possible. And we'll provide not only comparison information, but a deep dive of type of seat enrollment, location of enrollment. Because for example, right now, if you exclude some categories of seats, we're right covering at 94-95% enrollment. And we know that part of our work as a collaborative with all the partners is to really assess, okay, where are the sites that have weaker enrollment and what are the reasons we can identify? What are the barriers families are facing to enroll at that site? Or are there other extraneous reasons we aren't aware of? Or have we not really connected with the micro communities that would find that site to be convenient? So that, all of that kind of analysis is super, very, very important. I think that, in particular, it's so complex because you'll recall that our partner programs have enrollment criteria. They have restricted enrollment, and the Durham PreK seats are the only seats that are universally available to all families. But you as governance have set a priority that even within those universally available seats, that we prioritize families, as looking at where the need is. And so our goal is to have extremely diverse enrollment. But if there are certain categories where enrollment is lower, we have to really drill down to, is this about wrap care? Is this about transportation? Is this about location? Is this about anything we need to listen and hear from parents to understand what the barriers are for some sites? So it's way too early, but yes, we are committed to being fully transparent, because it's also critical as we seek funding in the future that we're able to show why we're making the choices we're making too. For example, when I said that 3 sites moved over and are not receiving local dollars this year, some would say, well, what's that about? Well, in some cases, it's about location. In some cases, it's about changing ownership of a site. There's different reasons, but those are things that we want to acknowledge and be aware of and be transparent. So.
I did want to say though, and I apologize for not saying this before, but given how trends have been and that we have families starting to get be outside more and be involved in various opportunities and programs for pre-K and school and things like that. In the past few years, I gotta say, being at 84% overall in September is actually not bad. I think that's pretty good. And so kudos to everyone with regard to that, because that's not, just looking at the trends from the past few years, that's not easy.
Yeah, and it is my understanding from communications with the state that when you look at the landscape of North Carolina, our enrollment is stronger than many counties across the state. Yeah. But obviously it's a work in progress. And, in November, we will definitely provide you with way more information than you ever wanted to know about enrollment. So, okay. Next slide. Okay, just quickly, just to remind you, those of you who've been with us for a while, you've seen this many times, but basically, that Durham County has committed to expanding access to high quality public support preschool through a mixed delivery system by partnering with high quality childcare programs in the community, as well as with NC PreK, led by Durham's Partnership for Children, with Durham Public Schools, and with Head Start. And for context, that is unique. Many communities in our state put some extra money into some components of public preschool, but Durham is unique in the amount that's being invested, as well as the way that the dollars are distributed in a collaborative way in graded funding. It's a very, it's not a common model, put it that way. And, you know, the overall goal, of course, is to improve access and quality. So, oh, good, Tobias is joining us. Next slide. Okay, so I know the writing is small, so, and you did receive the slides, but basically, this is just summarizing Durham's investment. So, to those of you who are newer, just to make you aware that Durham's public preschool investments are very different than many communities. And besides expanding access, which we already talked about, both by having dollars support new seats, additional seats, but also broadening those eligibility guidelines, which I already talked about. And then in addition, though, Durham County's investment really pays for quality improvement initiatives, and that is unusual. When we talk across the state with different communities and different public preschool programs, we find they often mention how they're scrambling to get additional dollars for technical assistance support for programs, as well as for professional development and coaching for teachers and other instructional staff. And a large component of Durham's investment supports these things. And then also, unique is that part about providing capacity building, which we already talked about. We can't find anybody else who's doing that specifically to increase future public preschool sites. I'm not saying nobody's doing it, but we haven't found it. And then also the local funding, foundational for you as governance members. The thing, if you don't take anything else away from your work with us, you want to hold close this understanding that these investments are really investing in higher wages for teachers. So even if you look nationally, program, for example, in New York gets a lot of attention. They have a public preschool program. They do not require that their teachers, even if credentialed the same, they do not require their teachers to be paid on the same scale. Durham PreK requires all teachers to be paid on the Durham Public School scale, whether they're in a private childcare program, leading universal pre-K, or if they're in the public schools. This is unique. And there are some other communities that do that, but what we find is that from the start of Durham PreK, this was an absolute non-negotiable. And the program compensates sites in order to support those higher wages, those higher reimbursement rates support. Okay, next slide. And then last, just to wrap up the overview of the program, reminding you what you signed up for. Durham's community goal, which we always are hammering and saying, is our long-term goal is to serve up to 75% of the 4-year-old census. And you'll remember that many programs from the state go around and say, we're serving this percent, we're serving that percent. And you, as advocates, will always want to ask, you're serving of that percent of what criteria? Our goal is to be able to serve 75% of the whole 4-year-old census. The other programs say a percent of eligible children. Okay, so for us, all Durham's children are eligible. It's just something to keep in mind. I think that we will hit the 42% this year. When we originally were looking at budgeting, we weren't sure if we would get there, but we should this year. And I will say too, that seems low. You know, you're like, wow, we're below 50%, but this is phenomenal to be here. It really is. So, okay. So that's that. We're done with our overview of the program. We're going to move on and talk about a program site discussion. And as we kind of have this overview, we want to acknowledge Dr. Pittman from Durham Public Schools, who is here today along with Karen Thompson, who's the early childhood leader in the school system. And you received an email from me with more descriptive information, and you received copies of information about the program. And our purpose in talking today is that what we know is we are glad to know that the process is moving along and that the school system is working closely with the state to resolve the safety and compliance issues that were brought up and documented at the Whitted School. And as you will remember, all of our Durham PreK sites are required to achieve and hold a 5-star rated license. That is the minimum, and that is an investment that's made because we support the quality rating system in North Carolina, and we know that those compliance components of the program are, first of all, addressing health and safety, but then also go beyond to assure that the environment our children are in meet some really good quality rating standards. In addition, though, Durham PreK has additional requirements on top of what licensing requires. And one of Durham PreK's requirements is that if a site, if an operating preschool program in Durham PreK has a compliance finding, then the site has to communicate with parents and share that. Not just the state requires that the admin action be, depending on what the admin action is, requires to be posted. They used to require that families be notified, but they changed that a few years ago. But in Durham PreK, we do require the families be notified about any substantial finding. At Whitted recently, as you got from us, they did receive a provisional license, which typically in the quality rating system means that typically it's a 6-month time period where a site has an opportunity to work with the state to resolve issues in order to hopefully get their license restored. Typically, most programs do go through a process and get their license restored, although sometimes not. But that 6-month period is the typical time frame. Now, at different times, if a site is able to resolve the issues, then sometimes that process speeds up. And the school district's been working closely with the state and with the licensing consultants, as well as with the fire marshal, to address some of the fire safety issues that were a big part of the administrative action. And for us today, for you as governance, this is, we're in a situation where we believe from feedback from the state that they may be resolving it in a quicker way. If they were not, if it was going to be a 6-month, for sure, 6-month provisional license, then we would be asking this group to, number one, vote as to whether or not we would be able to continue placing children at Whitted out of the universal application portal. And secondly, whether or not we would continue with Whitted School as a designated pre-K site. But at this point, we believe from feedback from the state that there's going to be some resolution earlier. And so we are not asking you today to vote on those things, although you certainly have the purview to, for us to have discussion and for you to consider what you want to see happen. But I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to ask Dr. Pittman to share an update about where the district is with the state. I know the provisional license is standing right now, but I know you have some information that will shine a light for the group.
Sure. And thank you, everyone, and good morning. thank you to Dr. Chappelle. She's been amazing and supportive of us through this journey and has been in communication with me as we've been addressing this. But if I may, I'd like to give context, so sort of how we got to this place and where we currently are. But back in April, we had a typical licensure visit. And so there were some things identified in that licensure visit that Durham Public Schools was able to immediately rectify in their required timeframe, with the exception of one item. That item was lack of a documented fire inspection report. If you remember, Whitted is part of the Veranda Whitted mixed use facility complex. And what we have learned is fire inspections were occurring for the Veranda complex, but those reports were not reaching the Whitted school for filing, but also Whitted. And so because we were missing fire inspection reports, we worked with the fire marshal to schedule that. So in May, a Whitted fire inspection was conducted. In that event, there were fire violations or concerns, fire doors, something to do with the fire panel. There were multiple things. Where it got complex is working with the property manager of Veranda, who has been amazing and supportive, the management company, and the ownership of the facility. So the areas of fire inspection for which Durham Public Schools was responsible in the Whitted side, our operational services started working to rectify those. And those often involved ordering parts, hiring the right vendors to be able to fix and rectify. In the meantime, a follow-up fire inspection occurred on the site, and additional things were identified with a sprinkler system. And most of that had to do with the Veranda side, senior living side, but still part of us being able to get a clean fire inspection with DCDEE. So we got a prior notice of administrative action for which we aggressively went after documenting and earmarking, I think it was a 30-page submission of verification of repairs that was submitted to DCDEE in their required timeframes. But because we didn't have a complete no violation fire inspection report for the facility, which involved Whitted, a notice of administrative action was issued. In that, there were errors. The report to us reflected erroneous information. And so we called DCDEE and said, this is not accurate. And we were told a revised notice would be issued. So in the meantime, we're still working to get whatever the issues are rectified. And it was during that window of time, Dr. Chappelle called and said, you didn't notify us that you were under notice. In the meantime, the revised notice of administrative action did come, and as a result of clarification that we did send to CCSA in the contractual timeframe, and we also included the original that we have been told to discard as a result of the corrected action. So at this point, I'm pleased to report we have received now a no violation inspection report from the fire marshal. We have shared that with CCSA. They have told us in writing that a closure letter for the provisional license is being prepared.
Okay, Debbie, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. That was for the Division of Child.
Thank you.
Yes, at CCSA, we're not part of the regular.
I meant DCD.
That's okay, I just wanted to clarify.
I'm flipping over.
It's okay.
Alphabetizing.
Just wanted to clarify. We don't have the power.
Right. No, we've shared it with the state, Holly Henby. She has notified us that the provisional license, I'm gonna get these words right. closure letter and the restoration of our 5-star process as well, and we'll be receiving that in the mail, and she expects within a couple of weeks. So we have rectified all of the issues, but the timing of getting everything done and working with vendors on the property management side, for which we don't have any authority. It was all working and helping them understand the seriousness of what we were facing. The licensure issue, the fire marshal has been amazing. He has tried the best he can to support this work and push paperwork through so that we can get this done in a timely manner. Dr. Chappelle's team and Miranda, their property management, but getting the right vendor. I have pages of working with vendors and contractors and permit and everything that each agency was managing to try to get this done in a timely manner. It did not meet up with the timing with the notice of administrative action, and we have since, we understand that contractually, we need to stay in tight communication with these kids if something like this happens.
Yeah, I mean, I know that we are all glad that these issues are being addressed, because obviously our absolute priority is the safety of our children. And so it's good that these issues were lifted up, obviously, because the building, you'll recall, for those of you not familiar with it, it was, a historic school in Durham and renovated a few years ago to be an intergenerational building. The upper floors are senior citizen apartments, and the bottom level of the school is the old school, is the preschool. And that is a unique building in that way. But obviously, with our 4-year-olds in particular, we're very concerned and focused on fire as a reality, if there were to be one, with really small children, obviously. So it sounds very convoluted, and we're glad that it's been addressed. I think that I've been asked, well, how long is it going to take? I think that what we know about the Division of Child Development and Early Education is that they certainly try to keep things moving as quickly as they can. I know that getting the license reissued can take a little time. And what I will say is that we will update you once it gets resolved, obviously. But typically with a provisional license, this group would have some hard decisions to make, obviously, because we want to have the best experience for the children who are enrolled there. When it is presently under enrolled, but there are children there being served, and of course, we're committed to them having the best experience that they can. So at this point, children are still eligible to enroll there. And, we've had a lot of discussion back and forth about whether we should put a pause on that until the new license is issued or not. But again, that's something that it's unique, because school districts are different than private childcare in the eyes of the law. And it's a very complex situation when you consider whether or not you're going to pause enrollment or not, and whether or not you can continue to put resources is in a provisional license status.
So a quick question. So the admin action remains, right? Is that
Right now,
right? Okay. Do we have any idea about if the admin action is going to stay in place for 3 years, like they, or show up? Yeah, admin actions are confusing to me. So maybe we need a little bit more insight about those.
My understanding is they're not rescinding the action, so it will remain posted on the website as administrative action. What they are going to do if it moves forward, which they've indicated that it will, what happens is a site satisfies the identified compliance issue. That's what happens at any licensed program. And the district has provided them with a signed off fire safety report, which for this situation, and they had previously addressed the compliance issues that were in the report. And so for DCDE's purposes, they sign off that a site has rectified and addressed all compliance issues, and they would reissue, if that moves forward, they would reissue the license. But it will not disappear. It wasn't through the appeal process found to not be valid. That's a separate process. I understand the district did file an appeal, so that's a parallel thing. This time, there's no ruling on appeal. That's a process that takes a number of weeks and months. So if they reissue the license in the coming weeks, that will show up as a new item on the WIDD, the ID number, the license ID number on the website. It will show up as a new action, but the old ones will not disappear.
That's helpful. And then Dr. Pittman, could you just address like are there steps in place so that this doesn't happen again?
Indeed, we have instituted some internal additional corrective action where we are ensuring that every 6 months we're on the rotation for fire inspections of Durham Public Schools. We're working with Dr. McCremon, who is the site coordinator, the principal, to make sure those inspection reports are easily accessible. And thirdly, she's instituting at least monthly communication with property management at Veranda so that they're staying a little more connected.
Can you speak a little bit about the other compliance issues that were addressed early in terms of, I know moving forward, some of the other things around your staffing and PPE type of thing, in terms of, review?
So there was a compliance issue in Washington. I do know Ms. McCremon worked with the staff immediately about procedures in the classrooms for reviewing those. Continuous PD about the solution being 5 feet in the classroom, as well as the professional development being offered. There was CPR and first aid. I'm just staying in compliance with that as well. As well as the ongoing training, professional development. I'm working with staff to make sure that they keep their trainings up to date. And she has copies of the certificates.
And I know, there was some staff turnover. Are you at a place where WIDD's fully staffed, or y'all are still hiring? What's the landscape there?
I want to say she's fully staffed. I know we were working on one door instructional assistant. I think she's fully staffed.
I know with the continued efforts to more fully enroll the site, your ratios are great if you're staffed, because just continue to enroll children. I think, thank you for just updating about that. I think that, I want to be clear that the provisional license was issued as a result of the fire issues that Dr. Pitt addressed. The other compliance issues are compliance issues that, were quickly addressed and would, under normal circumstances, would not result in a provision. That would be things that, what happens is the licensing system is not supposed to be a catch thing. it's supposed to support programs to improve and to be sure they have things in place. And of course, our technical assistance team works with sites for them to proactively avoid any kind of violations through the licensing system. But it happens, it definitely happens. But a provisional license typically is issued at a much more serious level, either with persistent compliance problems over time or some other kind of serious issue. And so, just to be clear about that, I think that those other items listed in the administrative action were things that would not typically result in provisional license. For those of you who, don't engage with the licensing system, it can be kind of complex the way that they create a hierarchy of, they prioritize the compliance in different categories, and obviously health and safety is an absolute, highest level.
How many classrooms? Is it one classroom?
No, there's multiple classrooms there.
Eight classrooms, and they were pre-K or?
They're all pre-K.
Yeah, that ground, it's a standalone preschool, so, but, it's different because those apartments are in the upstairs part. But it's definitely separate. I mean, the folks, the residents in the building don't have to go through the preschool to get to their apartments, right?
Multi-generational, it's really been awesome.
Yeah.
So, just a brief question. So this scenario, due to me, I haven't been on the board, but would the governance committee send out any sort of communication to help other sites examine their internal audit processes to prepare for these compliance visits, or what's the next steps there? Because if it can happen to this site, what about the rest of the sites?
Yeah, so our technical assistance team, and that's one of the positives about the investments that Durham County has made, our existing sites, we don't just do capacity building TA for sites that want to be Durham PreK. The existing sites have a assigned technical assistance team leader who works with them, and the quality rating system, the licensing system, all those pieces is one part of what that TA does. So to be a 5-star, just to be clear, the reason we have that 5-star minimum for Durham PreK sites is that for many people, 5-star is just a basic floor. But in reality, in our quality rating system, there are the 1 through 4 stars also. But to achieve a 5-star license, a site has to go through a process of being monitored and having a lot of those boxes checked. But they do have a renewal for their license, and they are visited external monitors. But internally, we do provide support for all sites. And many sites or many site directors will say, we're fine, we've got it. So some sites feel completely comfortable with all the components of the licensing review. But other sites are always welcoming additional support and additional help with reviewing. In addition, for Durham PreK, as well as for NC PreK, each year the sites are monitored. And part of monitoring is also just an overview of those licenses. That's an internal monitoring. Tamara and Jamaica are both heavily involved in monitoring along with other staff. And again, that monitoring that we do internally is all about really supporting people. It's not about a gotcha. It's about, okay, these are some areas of weakness and we need to improve. But I do think that your question is valid, because whenever any one site, I always say to people, we're only as good as our weakest program. We're only as good as our weakest staff member. We're only as good as our weakest program. And we do have to be aware that sometimes in the day-to-day of working with children, folks working on sites, some of those overall health and safety issues can get lost because you're intensively working with children, and sometimes people, will forget the habits that create health and safety. So that's part of our desire to make sure that sites are in compliance at all times.
And Linda, I wanted, thank you for bringing that up because we did get our marching orders from DCDE as far as monitoring for this year, yesterday, day before. And so we can probably also reiterate that in our monthly meetings before we go out, just to make sure that, we're all on the same page. And then we kind of talked about, Jamaica and I talked about some kind of processes to make sure that when we go out, we also have more documentation on our end to document what we saw, didn't see on the visits to cover this group.
Question. Dr. Pittman spoke to the communication between district and the property managers ownership. Is there any current or should there be any communication between pre-K, whether it be the agency, governments as well? It's really not just the district responsibility to make sure that compliance is there, that expectation comes from Durham PreK. So are we talking to the property managers also?
We haven't today. And this issue, this is a great question. So the way the Durham PreK is set up, we contract with an operator. In this case, Durham Public Schools to operate with it. All of our sites, live in some kind of facility. Few of our operators own their facility. And so, June, if you don't mind, I'll pick on you for a second. June is our leader at Yates, which is a Baptist church here in Durham. And the child care program at Yates is housed in the church facility. And for Durham PreK, for our overview, we have a contract with the church because the child care program is part of the church. And we interface with June as their site director. And it is generally our expectation that that site director is interfacing with whoever the facility group is. So we haven't to this point. I do think we did, of course, as you did. For our other sites, we don't interact with landlords and that type of thing. Typically. However, if there's a serious issue that creates a licensing challenge, we always stand ready to do what we can to be supportive. And this situation is very different because of the county's payment to renovate that building, the unique ownership of the building, and that type of thing. What we have done is we've communicated with the county as the funder for Durham PreK about this situation and would with any site, as they are the funder. We certainly could reach out to that management group of that building if there was a way that would be appropriate and helpful. We wouldn't be against it, but we haven't to this point interfaced with the landlords or other building type managers.
Yeah, I guess what I'm suggesting is this is a community effort, viewed as supports pre-K. And just a general statement from maybe the governance board that says, thank you for supporting pre-K in Durham by having this work in one of your buildings. And here are some ways that you can continue to help us by making sure you understand that these are the expectations. In an asset space, I'm not sure the friendly way to put that, but just to make it a suggestion. That's just a general thing that we do for every owner of that our sites are in. Also, to get ahead, make sure they're aware that they have responsibility. Because after the fact, it's too late.
Yeah. And I'd much rather it be after the fact of a violation than after the fact of a serious event. Yeah.
So I was thinking about this, and I know that typically the kind of the expectation and process is to notify both the funders like Durham PreK, DC PreK, what have you, if an investigation is opening up, if it is coming down the pipe that it's going to be administrative action, things like that, but also to inform families if in the event that there is an administrative action in place, and it goes to the provisional license. I know for us, typically, for NC pre-K, typically it is an expectation, especially if it's a classroom that's NC pre-K funded, that families are notified and they have to sign off on that they are notified. And so I was curious if that happened with this particular administrative action. I know I found out about it when DCDE sits out, and everything like that. And I immediately checked in, with, Dr. McCrimmon and, Ms. Thompson to find out, what next steps, what the anticipated expectation was gonna be, and everything like that. And really, my initial thought was, let me find out how they're gonna respond to the administrative action first. But now that I'm thinking about it further, I'm wondering if there was an opportunity. Have them sign off, let them know at least, hey, this is here, this is the case. I know families do research like this all the time on a regular basis. And this is what we're doing to answer to it.
Sure, I can answer that. When the notice of administrative action was received, it outlines immediately that the letter must be posted in a visible location in front of your building. The professional license must be posted, and the corrective action measures must be posted. We immediately complied and notified families in that regard. The Durham pre-K contract says letter to parents may be necessary, may be required, and subsequently have written a letter to the families. We've also been able to include the fact that the corrective actions have been met, the licensure, the 5-star rating is being restored, and I believe that's underway right now.
Will they sign off?
And they will sign off.
That they received it?
Yes, they'll sign off, and we've asked that they return it.
Okay.
One thing to note is in the past, DCDE has put in the admin action that it not only had to be posted, but families had to be notified. They have since changed that. And it just says it has to be posted, but I think it would be, a good proactive measure for us to remind NC pre-K, sites and Durham pre-K sites that, even though the division now just says it has to be posted in the visible, our requirement is that, particularly for, and I guess contract says may, but for a provisional license, that would be a requirement for us. Just remind them that even though DCD's letter to them says post, for NC pre-K and for Durham pre-K, families actually do be notified. Just as because you get that from DCD and you think, oh, I just have to post it, and you don't remember that there's this additional requirement that families be notified in a specific manner via letter and signing off as part of our requirements for NC pre-K.
Yeah, so I think two big takeaways I'm hearing is, can we have something that goes to building owners, admins, landlords, whomever, saying, thanks, here's some things we need for you to remember to do, right? And can we check in with directors and owners and all of the administrative folks to say, remember, these are the requirements. If this happens, X needs to happen, and here's the time frame, and here's what happens if that doesn't occur, right? So, and I don't know if any of those requirements need to be revisited or just reinforced everybody. Because it's complicated, right? Fire inspection, that, I don't even know, sanitation, there's a lot. So I think this is just a good reminder of everyone needs to be aware of everyone's responsibilities and requirements. And it's tricky if you are at a site that's got Head Start requirements, Title I requirements, public school system requirements, pre-K, Durham pre-K requirements, and I mean, it gets complicated, right? So I think just refreshing of, here's what you gotta do.
Let me ask this question. How frequently would you recommend reminding people in a year? I'm just curious. I'm not trying to be facetious or anything like that, but
I mean, I think once a year, just to check on what, or as turnover occurs, then that would be another opportunity for TA to say, let's take a quick look. Here's what's required. It's just my opinion.
We can certainly, I mean, I don't think any of those things are something that we would think would be reasonable. And I don't think they require a vote. I think that what we can also say is we will update you moving forward as the situation changes. And if for some reason the license does not come through in a timely way, we would revisit this again, obviously, because placements and that. But we have every reason to believe that it's gonna be resolved in a quicker timeframe than the 6-month provisional license that has been issued. But thank you all.
So we're way past the break.
Well, we are running a little late, but look, reviewing our later agenda items, we can condense if we want to take a quick break.
Yeah, let's take a quick break. I think we're all needing to stretch our legs. So a 5-minute break. Oh, boy. 1 minute after 11.
All right.
Yeah, next 10 minutes.
Okay. Bye, your food.
Okay.
They're going better than expected. Considering last year's start.
Yeah.
It's been crazy, but we're making it.
Well, I remember who, I remember names or anything, but I had loved one of your teachers at Fairview. The other day, she was saying, so great. And she was saying names of people that she just looks quirky.
So you're in chapter.
So Durham PreK is in both Durham and Archie. So again, our service.
Yeah, we are, like everyone else.
I'm trying to divert
Teacher. And when we get them, we're so excited. So we're trying to do everything clean and easy. Because when you lose one, to replace it, I didn't be careful. Oh, I'm doing better. Girl, but I had a relapse.
No, really hard minute.
Thank you.
Not hard headed.
Yeah, you seemed like you were a little frustrated. What did you name? The camera.
Oh, yeah, I know. On Monday, I had a video grant relation. So they did the next one yesterday. I had to go back. One of the decisions started. And but they said I'm doing it. But it was like, okay. What is going on? After the procedures on Monday, Tuesday, I could feel a difference because being able to do it. And they did a reflection on LGBT. I'm trying to at least control pain, but only for me to find out. And reading is fundamental, that they gotta go back and do the right side, or the left side, not right side. But they said it wasn't draining, it was draining, but it wasn't an infection, but it was because I had tried my bedroom upstairs.
Are you behaving?
Overdo it?
Are you behaving?
So it's like, do I stay upstairs or do I stay downstairs? And then up and down, activated.
Yeah, you gotta take care of yourself.
Yeah.
But thank you for being here.
Yeah, but I hope I found my glasses.
I hope you find them too.
That's
huh? Where are you? Well, you know, I couldn't even be here if I didn't have my glasses.
Well,
So
I
you're
said,
fortunate you're able to
at
make
least
it.
I can still see, but.
Especially for that.
And I lost them evidently. I haven't had them on since Monday.
Oh, because you had that procedure.
So I don't know where they are.
Yikes, yikes.
Yeah.
If it was me.
Yeah.
Okay. We haven't had a chance to talk about touch base.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
We actually have something that.
Well, so. Right, exactly. So we're building it.
But I'm sure they'll get.
I was like, I know, you
Yeah.
left the- I was like, I was freaking out, I'm trying to not scream out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I totally.
I know it. Well, let me know. Well, yeah. There's a lot of elementary schools.
I know. I did whatever.
Don't get upset.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. No more. We started again. I'll see.
Okay, let me ask you to check.
Okay.
Brenda.
Okay, great. So, back to Linda. Okay, I'm going to, invite you to, listen to a review of our, family survey results from last school year. We're joined by some team members, Catherine Brandt, who, works within the Chopper Research Referral Division here, took the lead from, our traditional family survey activities. And then we also had the supplemental activities this year from CCSA's Systems Research Division. And we're joined by two members of their team, Frederick Yoba, and you know what, Zachary, I'm very embarrassed that I don't have your last name. It's okay. I'm shattered. Thanks. Thank you. And we're gonna hear from Catherine and Zachariah to fill us in about the surveys from our school year that ended in June. Catherine?
Yeah, so this is the survey we've done every year for several years now, reported every fall. Conducted in May to end of the school year, conducted on the phone and online, whatever is better for the parents, and in English and in Spanish. And this year we had a 45.5% completion rate, which is amazing. That's our highest rate ever. So we feel like our results really reflect experience in the Durham PreK program from the family side. I'm not going to go over every question we ask. That would take way too long, but we do look at lots of our questions through different demographic lenses, just to make sure that there are ideally no big differences between groups. And if there are, we can try to understand them. In general, there are not big differences in satisfaction and experience between different demographic groups. And it can be hard to make strong comparisons because the group size vary, because it's an actual research study where we had to make really even groups. So our big question, how would you rate your overall experience? Phenomenal. People in general, 93% either said good or very good. The next table, I'm not going to read it off, but it has all the different groups that we analyzed by. And you can see on your slide that I can't read the table on the screen, but that in general, most groups were in the 85 to 95% range. And we just analyzed these numbers over the years to make sure that if there's any big changes between groups, we noted and maybe could think about ways to address it. This year was the first year we analyzed by family structure, which was just if they have a single parent household or a 2-parent household. There was no difference there between those groups, but because it's no additional information to get from the parents, it's collected during the application process. We're gonna keep analyzing that just to make sure that stays that way. Some other key questions: would you recommend Durham PreK to a friend or fellow family member? 93% said yes there. Which aspect of Durham PreK needs to be changed the most? This was a multiple response question. The most common responses were transportation, availability of wrap care, and then the placement process. I just want to highlight there that in general, the demographic groups that are more marginalized were more likely to say transportation and things around wrap care, and the more privileged demographic groups were more likely to say the placement process, although all groups said all of those. Then we asked about kindergarten readiness. 2 different questions. As a result of participating in Durham PreK, I feel my child is more prepared for kindergarten. We had a 93% agreement rate. And then on a scale of 1 to 5, how prepared is your child for kindergarten today? And on the right side of the graph is 4 and 5, which were the most prepared. And you can see that all the 8 families felt at least somewhat prepared, if not most of them feeling very prepared. And then the last section is just some quotes. I won't read out, I know they're on your slides, but we have pages and pages of quotes about Durham PreK. And I just picked out three that highlight some of the most important aspects of this work from the family side, right? The first one, both parents are now able to work through the Durham pre-K. The second one, that the child is prepared for kindergarten and they have another child coming up into Durham pre-K soon that they're excited about. And then the relationship between the teachers and the children and that positive impact it's having on the child. So those are the presentation results, the quick one. There's much more information if you ever want it, that we prepare a report that talk to Linda about.
Yeah, there's an extensive report, available that, goes really deeply into questions. And, if you have a particular interest or an area that you would like to learn more, we invite you to do that. And I think that for us, for several years, as Catherine mentioned, we've been doing this type of survey. And we are aware that survey research doesn't require us to have a 45% response rate, but we are thrilled, obviously, to have as high as possible because it matters, obviously, to us, to have that information from families who have participated. This is not the only time we ask parents questions, obviously. We also, when parents apply through the Universal Application Portal, what we call SMA system, they have an opportunity when they finish their application process. They also have an opportunity to provide feedback about, in particular, the application process at that time. But, importantly, that question about when it said which aspects of Durham pre-K need to change the most. So their opportunity to give feedback after they apply is not related to their place. So the application process can be daunting for some families, and we want to get feedback from them about that. But then this question about the placement process, when we take a deep dive into that information, there's a wide range of reasons that people might be dissatisfied with the placement process. One thing that we do hear often is some frustration that families don't get to actually pick the exact site that their child is able to enroll in. We give them the opportunity to tell us what their preferences are. They have a chance to identify preferences. But some families find that to be a frustrating process. And in particular, also, with the public school program, they have the opportunity to select that they want a public school, but they don't typically get to pick a school in particular. And so, you can see that obviously there'd be a wide range of reasons why a parent might be giving feedback about the placement process as a frustration. But there are other reasons too. But we certainly can provide a really detailed information report if you're interested in that. This year, for the first time, we asked our CCSA's Systems Research and Development Group to help us go farther, to ask more. And so Corey is going to talk to us a little bit about some additional work we did this year to enhance the feedback that we're getting from parents. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, everyone. So I want to talk a little bit about the parent experience report Linda mentioned to extend just a bit onto the family satisfaction survey. So I'm just going to talk a bit about the background, data collection, what we found, during those interviews. A bit of background, we wanted to really dive into families' experiences within the program. So we sending out emails, later on sending out flyers, phone calls to people who express interest. And then today we have a sort of snapshot of the family experience that we found from those conversations that we'll share with you through some quotes. So as far as data collection and demographics, so we talked with 9 families through interviews, 5 families in a focus group. Demographics ranged from family incomes below 100% to above 400% of the federal poverty level. Languages spoken at home including English, Urdu, and Arabic. Ethnicity and racial demographics were Black African American, White Caucasian, Asian Islander. And we went into 3 main topics during the interviews, including impressions of Durham PreK, talked a bit about the accessibility of the application process, as well as home visits, what do they know about them, did they do them? We also talked about family engagement and resources, so opportunities in the program to engage with each other, with their teachers. Also resources, including like healthcare referrals, support services, if they needed them, did they have access to them, were they aware of them, and recommendations moving forward. So things like where should Durham PreK advertise to reach more families? Little anecdotes that they may have had throughout the year. So very quickly, data analysis took the interviews and the focus groups, and the transcripts, made sure there wasn't any major discrepancies between the audio that we had and the what was on paper, because those would be used for our first round of coding, where we could look at major themes, we found individual interviews and focus groups, and then the second round of coding where we compare across the focus groups to see what kind of stood out and what kind of unique experiences there were. And then to sort of round that out, we pulled out some quotes to again elevate those common experiences and experience families had. I won't read all of them, but these are just a few quotes. So, for example, families shared with us about the application process. One parent said that it worked really well in her favor and that Durham PreK listened pretty well to our needs as a family. And this was pretty common with the families that we talked to. And they also mentioned if they had any issues when they reached out, they were usually solved pretty quickly. And they were showed really positive ideas about the Durham PreK offices. And then opportunities to connect. This is more of a unique experience. Father who, through his child's program, had a father enhancement program. And speaking to the male engagement leader, talking about getting a men's mental health program available. Thought was just really cool. I think it speaks to that family engagement piece. And also just the comfort to be able to be a part of those initiatives, and also support their own initiatives and future side. We can move to the next one. And we asked about opportunities that they wanted to see or ways to improve Durham PreK. One parent mentioned an introductory session about using adults and the protocols. And then another parent mentioned ways to facilitate parent engagement at their site. And then when we talked about transitioning to kindergarten, a couple of parents mentioned that their children learn new languages, learned English because English was their second language. Their children were interacting more with friends, and then other parents mentioned that they feel their child will acclimate perfectly to the kindergarten program. These are, of course, across different sites, but it's really interesting to see parents' perspective. I was really appreciative of about their experience with that.
I did want to lift up and share that we did, the team did pursue having a Spanish language focus group, and actually did host it with disappointing attendance. I think that we will continue, this was new this year, to add this extra layer onto our surveying. And I think that we, for the future years, we're committed to doing this. One of our goals will be to be sure that we are able to have participation from the full range of our families, and I think language, obviously, we don't want that to be a barrier for people to provide their feedback to us. And this add-on was possible because we were able to access some other staff outside of our group. As you know, Durham PreK is not funded for an external evaluation. But we are making every effort to look at what we can do within the capacity of the team, because we're fully committed to trying to be sure that we get appropriate feedback. And we'll talk more about that in future meetings in terms of our work toward data sharing and that type of thing. This is more about, obviously telling the story of people's experience. And we really do use the feedback we get to make changes moving forward. So I think that's the key, is what do we do with it? And I think that commitment is there to try to make, from all the partners, to make sure that we're adapting as we learn new things, about the program. So.
Quick question. Were the focus groups and surveys done, were the families that were reached out were the ones who are specifically funded in some form or fashion by local funds only, or was it like kind of across?
Catherine, you want to talk about that?
So for the survey, we email everyone who is enrolled in the Durham PreK site, and we also can call them, and we email the people who are also at NC PreK only site. And so we had 600 something seats last year, but we did contact 900 something.
Right.
families.
So for the
Yes, for the
survey,
survey, that's
yeah,
correct.
but for the focus group is what I'm wondering about.
The focus groups were that group that we provided contact information to the research team, were limited to the local.
Okay. Okay.
And mostly that was just a resource issue in
Okay.
terms of, how much we can use.
I understand.
Okay, if we can do a quick time check.
Yeah.
We are running low on time. In looking at our agenda items, we can quickly do membership. Just share with you that we have a couple of members who will be turning over, and I can send a follow-up email with information about that. But if you can, we are in the process. Remember, November is when new members start, and we are working on that. We will be joined by a current Durham PreK site leader. We'll add one of those in November, as well as a early childhood researcher. And then we'll be recruiting for a nonprofit leader in Durham, as well as considering whether or not we can identify and engage business. So if you can be thinking about that, we'll send you some follow-up email about the process and what's available to support that. And I'll get you something by the end of the day about that. For the Day of Giving, we really just wanted to lift this up as something we want to do, but we do need your blessing. We don't technically need a vote to do this, but we just want to be sure, if you have concerns, that you have an opportunity to weigh in. What we would like to do, if you're familiar with Giving Tuesday, it is a very social media focused way to lift up programs and to seek resources from interested constituencies. And we feel like that is a more accessible way for us to do something at this time. We would like to participate in Giving Tuesday for Durham PreK this year, which happens to be December 3rd. But if there were any reservations, we were hoping you would let us know and maybe share those. Or if anybody had any reason they felt like that was a bad idea.
I think it's a great idea. You got a lot of great quotes you can use from families. But anyone have any concerns? Hesitation? No? Okay.
Okay, awesome. And then the last thing we're really concerned about is that it's been proposed that our January meeting, now we've done this in some previous years, not every year, but in some previous years, we've had a facilitator to work with the group, and the way it would be structured, if you approve it, would be that we would do any business we had to do, we would do very quickly at the, first. And then, the facilitator would work with you around our more long-term planning to use for the program. But we know 2 hours is really not gonna help us much. And we were proposing to add an hour. That's not a bunch of time, but we know that our membership is a very busy group. And we would welcome if you want to do longer, but we were hoping you at a minimum would consider adding an hour that we could do this in the January meeting. And it would be in person. Our meetings this year, this first one in person, and then January were the 2 meetings that you had previously designated. The rest of the meetings will be virtual this year, unless you decide to change that.
So let's look at the January 16th meeting. First thing, how do y'all feel about 9:30 to 12:30? What do you think about stretching it a little longer and having a working lunch? Giving you plenty of notice. Yeah, 9:30, 12:30? Longer?
Michelle did a thumbs up. She.
Oh,
I
great.
saw it
Oh,
come through, yeah.
Okay, so are you thumbing up the 9:30 to 12:30? Or are you thumbing up the suggestion I threw out about making it a little bit longer and doing a working lunch?
Well, actually, it was 9:30 to 12:30, but now if you include lunch, definitely.
So could we do 9:30 to 1:30?
Yes, yes.
If you feed us? Yeah. Yeah, we'll get breaks.
Yeah, we can definitely feed you. If you feel like you can do to 1:30, we certainly would welcome the opportunity.
I just think it's such a, to have a facilitator and to really have the hard conversations, it'd be nice to have a little bit of extra time so we can have longer conversations if those come up. Yeah, okay, put it on the calendar. Great. And then is everything else, the meeting schedule for the year fine?
At our last meeting, you did agree that the dates, typically it's the third Thursday of every other month, but we do in an ongoing way reserve the right to review that if those dates are not good. We have been fortunate that we have always had a quorum, which of course is a low measure, but trying to identify whether the date is good. But this group is such a busy group that we do have in our bylaws, we say that membership, we ask that you be able to commit to a minimum of half the meetings a year in terms of participation. And generally, members have been able to meet that threshold. But obviously, we value your voices and appreciate if you are able to come way more than that.
And we thank you all so much for serving, and you're continuing to serve. And I think that gets us to 11:29. So that is the end of our meeting. Now there is lunch available.
Yes, so lunch is right outside this room, and you're welcome to get your lunch and come back and relax and eat with here. Or if you want to take it with you, it's in a box way that you can take it with you. And those of you who joined us virtually, thank you so much for being here. And Brittany, maybe sometime you can bring that little one with you to visit us.
Yeah. Now, can you say hi?
Oh, so cute.
Thank you.
Oh, so cute. Yay.
Thank you.
Great. Yep.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Oh, sorry, we need a motion to adjourn. I always forget. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Great, do we have a second? I'll second. Wonderful. All in favor, say aye and go get your lunch.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Have a good day,
Thank you.
everyone.
Good to see you.